Alright, here's the deal. Star Wars seems to be aiming for a clean, connected future after Episode 9, yet the last week showed exactly what's getting in the way.
I did want to take your hand. Ben's hand.
The Ben Solo movie had a finished script, a director, even a start date on the calendar, and Disney still pulled the plug. And then we heard about another film, one tied to David Fincher, who literally started out on Return of the Jedi. That fizzled too. So, is this really about bad ideas, or is something higher up blocking the next era?
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
Today we're diving into what actually happened with the Ben Solo movie, why the concept itself wasn't the problem, and how that one decision ripples into everything. Starfighter moving ahead, the new Jedi Order film with Rey carrying the Skywalker name, and the long game that might even bring a new Skywalker into the mix. We'll connect the background seeds as well, like how a recent show quietly set up Ben's return, and why Lucasfilm's post-Episode 9 plan looked more mapped out than people think.
So falls the last Skywalker.
If you're into this kind of deep dive, hit like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, drop some hype points, it's massively appreciated, and let's get into it. Alright, so here's how this really went down and why it matters to where Star Wars goes next. Last week's Adam Driver interview didn't just drop a fun trivia nugget, it cracked the door open on a movie that by all accounts was ready to shoot. Over 2 years of development, a record-sized check cut to the writer, final screenplay delivered, director attached, star on board. There was even a start date penciled in on the calendar. From what's been reported, Lucasfilm's side gave it the thumbs up, then it hit Disney. And that's where the brakes slammed on.
I'll show you the dark side.
The note from the top was basically, we don't understand how Ben Solo is alive after the rise of Skywalker. Now, whether you agree with that note or not, the takeaway is bigger than one character. If a fully packaged Ben Solo sequel can stall at the 1 yard line, it tells you a lot about how fragile this next era is at the studio level, and it wasn't an isolated blip. Around the same time, we heard about another film, one connected to David Fincher, who, as I mentioned, started his career working out on Return of the Jedi. I mean, what a place to start out, right? Well, that movie's never going to see the light of day. It was reportedly going to be set between episodes 8 and 9 with Rey and Luke. Now, one near miss is disappointing, two in the same news cycle starts to look like a pattern. And here's the part that stings. The Ben project wasn't rejected because the concept was weak. It sounds like a decision influenced by internal politics at Disney, not a story call.
Anything else?
And that has ripple effects. It reframes Starfighter moving ahead. It shifts how the new Jedi Order movie with Rey is positioned. And it complicates the path to anything that would recenter the Skywalker legacy. And whether that's Ben's return, a new Skywalker, or even bringing in Legends adjacent threads down the line, it makes you wonder if a ready-to-shoot Ben Solo movie wasn't enough, what would be? Either way, this isn't just another project shelf headline. It's a peek at the decision-making that's shaping what we actually see after Episode 9 and why the future keeps feeling just out of reach. And now here's where the temperature really starts to rise. For years I've been saying maybe the reason all these Star Wars movies that have been announced but never made it to camera, never did, was because, well, maybe they weren't good enough. But the Ben Solo project blows a hole in that. From everything we've heard, the script made sense inside the canon. The creatives at Lucasfilm believed in the return mechanism, and the packaging was strong enough to sit in the ready-to-shoot lane. If story logic really wasn't the issue, then we're not talking about bad pitches. We're talking about a system that can't agree on what the future is supposed to look like.
Show me, grandfather, and I will finish what you started.
And that's really the part that stings. This is the franchise that's brought back Palpatine, Maul, Ventress, Boba Fett. Resurrections aren't the hurdle seems to be upstairs. For the reports to say that the decision came from Disney's leadership as they couldn't square how Ben Solo was alive after Episode 9, that changes the conversation from a creative one to a corporate one. And it puts the brakes not on just one movie, but on the message to fans about what the next era actually is.
You're afraid that you will never be as strong as Darth Vader.
Layer in the power dynamics and the picture sharpens. With Bob Iger nearing the end of his tenure and succession talk swirling, every green light is a signal to the brand's direction. Alan Bergman was widely tipped as the heir apparent, and the word is he's the one that flatly turned it down. If that's the taste-making filter, more caution, fewer swings, then you can see how a fully baked, ready-to-go project still dies on the 1 yard line. And apparently due to the decisions he's been making, he's no longer the frontrunner. So you have to wonder if that internal tug of war is part of why everything feels frozen. Either way, it's not really just about a lost film anymore, it's about momentum.
You need a teacher! I could show you the ways of the Force!
Every pass pushes Starfighter into a lonely spotlight, complicates how the new Jedi Order film positions Rey, and the larger Skywalker legacy, and chips away at the confidence that there's a coherent plan after Episode 9. That's the tension we're in right now, not so much a lack of ideas, but a lack of alignment about which idea gets to define the future. And yeah, I totally get why people think Lucasfilm's just dragging its feet, but the more this shakes out, the more it looks like they actually are trying to push into that post-Episode 9 space, just not as fast or as boldly as fans want. You see, the cameras are rolling on Starfighter right as we speak, and it looks promising from what we've seen so far. But on paper, there were clearly more dominoes lined up. The new Jedi Order film, of course, the Ben Solo movie,
The seed of the Jedi Order lives.
Rogue Squadron, even the Simon Kinberg trilogy hovering further down the runway. The intent's there, but the bottleneck feels like vision. And for me, that's where the split shows. Lucasfilm's creatives seem keen to build on what George Lucas started, keep the Skywalker thread alive while widening the galaxy. Disney, meanwhile, reads like it wants a cleaner break, a version of Star Wars that's recognisably theirs.
I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to
was a cheap move.
And you can actually see the fingerprints of that in the sequel trilogy's Wipe the Slate Clean arc. Every original trilogy hero phased out. So if they now view Skywalker as yesterday's brand, you can see why the Ben Solo movie is the first to fall. He's the last blood Skywalker, so choosing him by definition is also choosing that legacy again. The thing is, right now I'm not sure if we're watching a quiet phase out of the Skywalker name or a setup for a carefully controlled return. What do you think?
A legend.
The galaxy may need a legend.
Anyways, the stakes are pretty clear. Push too hard away from the lineage and you risk hollowing out the emotional spine. Lean too hard into it and you risk being accused of retreads. That's why Starfighter moving forward matters. If the young lead truly hints at a new Skywalker, Disney gets a flash canvas without undoing Episode 9 and Lucasfilm keeps the myth alive.
Then he's our last hope.
So yeah, the future of Star Wars still needs the Skywalkers on the big screen to, well, feel like Star Wars, then who carries that torch? Ben, Rey's New Order, or someone new? One thing's for sure, whichever door they pick next is going to set the tone for probably the next decade. Anyways, here's where everything they've been hinting at finally clicks. I don't think Lucasfilm's just been wandering around aimlessly. I think they've had a clear roadmap for a while, and I think they've actually been breadcrumbing it in plain sight. The clearest tell for me today, I think, is The Acolyte. The art book reveals that Qimir was planned as being the first Knight of Ren, which reframes his whole presence in the show. And it's why Kylo's motif sneaks in over one of his scenes. It's not just a musical wink, it's a breadcrumb that points to the mythology that Ben Solo inherits later. And that matters because if the Knights aren't a fad that popped up in the sequels, but a cult that predates even Darth Sidious, then Ben was actually stepping into a legacy that's been part of the galaxy for centuries.
I know what I have to do.
Now imagine where that threads into a post-Episode 9 story. You don't have to bend canon into knots to bring Ben back if the Ren legacy is more than just a mask. It could be a philosophy with rituals, artifacts, and a history of surviving ends. If the cult dates back to before the Phantom Menace, then you've got the room for old pacts and force-bound relics. Even a precedent for a knight to disappear and return transformed. Suddenly, a Ben comeback isn't cheap fan service, it has the potential to be a logical payoff to the lore the franchise has been laying in the background.
The Jedi, the rebels, let it all die.
And if that's the design, ask yourself this. Did they seed Qimir with a vision to make Ben's return make sense later, only for the brakes to slam on it at the last second? And yeah, what I love about this is it adds weight to Ben without rewriting The Rise of Skywalker. Expanding the Knights of Ren retroactively gives his path a spine. He's not just Kylo because Snoke groomed him, he's a link in a chain that's been moving in the dark since long before the Empire. That's how you deepen a character for a film that moves forward. You show that the darkness he escaped wasn't just a phase, it was a lineage. And if that lineage has a surviving order or a relic that chooses a successor, who's to say it couldn't try to reclaim him or force him to confront it one last time?
And when I kill you, I will have killed the last Jedi!
Because here's the real tension. If Lucasfilm built a runway where Ben's return feels earned, why would you skip the emotional payoff fans get from seeing such a setup pay off? And yeah, pulling that thread also solves another problem the sequels left behind, the Knights themselves. We were all asking who they were and what they wanted. Placing their roots before Plagueis gives them more of a mythic shape. Sith-adjacent Zayluts with their own code. And it lets the new movie answer questions that the sequels asked without living in the past. Tie that into Starfighter's forward push and Rey's New Jedi Order, and you don't just resurrect the chapter, you reconcile eras. And that's the promise of a true next era, right? Use the past to power the future. Don't run from it. But yeah, here's where the picture really snaps into focus. For all the stops and the starts, it really does look like Lucasfilm wants the Skywalkers in the mix going forward. They greenlit Ben's movie before it got blocked. Rey's New Jedi Order is still on the books with her carrying the name.
My mother was the daughter of Vader. Your father was the son of the Emperor.
And Starfighter really is the wild card. Rumoured to pull in Mara Jade and even potentially introduce a new Skywalker heir. That flips Luke's arc from run away in fear to disappearing to protect family, which instantly gives this post-Episode 9 era a spine to build on. And yes, Star Wars is still going to time hop. Next out the gate is The Mandalorian and Grogu in May 26, likely dovetailing with Ahsoka Season 2. And then we jump 5 years past The Rise of Skywalker with Star Wars Starfighter. If we can't get one clear line, 2 tracks can work, just as long as they speak to each other. Otherwise, you end up with cool one-offs that don't really add up to much. That'd be a waste when you've actually got a clear path to make the Skywalker thread the emotional bridge between timelines.
The dark side is in our nature. Surrender to it.
But yeah, what keeps me optimistic is the shape of the map we've seen. Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order, a potential new Skywalker heir, and Ben as the unresolved heartbeat that ties legacy to future. If Disney loosens the brakes and lets the plan breathe, you don't just get scattered projects, you get a generational arc. The real question now is, which reveal hits first? The new Skywalker in Starfighter, a Mara Jade confirmation perhaps in Mando, or a moment that makes Ben's return feel inevitable? Because whichever lands sets the tone for everything that follows. So now here's where I land on it. I get the business instinct to clean the slate and launch something fresh. You don't keep a 50-year franchise alive by living in the past. And sure, Star Wars doesn't need the Skywalkers to work. The Mandalorian, Andor, Rogue One all prove that. But it's never been an either-or. Let the galaxy breathe with stories that stand on their own, and let the Skywalker thread keep the myth's heartbeat going.
I did want to take your hand. Ben's hand.
The OT was Luke's ascent, the prequels were Anakin's fall, and the sequels were the only trilogy where Skywalker wasn't the sole centre of gravity. That wasn't necessarily Lucasfilm's first choice, but you can feel the gap it left. What's changed lately is the audience signal. The push for a Ben Solo movie isn't just noise. Times Square billboards, a plane flying a banner over Disney HQ. Iger's comments on Instagram flooded. That's momentum. Maybe Disney underestimated how many fans want to see this chapter paid off, even after a divisive sequel era and the messiness around Han's death.
Son is dead.
Kylo Ren is dead.
The appetite is there, and if you're trying to win back trust, you meet the audience where the emotion lives. But yeah, here's the big picture. The next couple of years will tell us everything. We've got films and shows queued up, and we've got changes coming upstairs. New leadership at Disney this winter, and likely knock-ons at Lucasfilm after. If the creatives are allowed to create, you can have that balanced diet. Bold new corners of the galaxy alongside that Skywalker path. That doesn't feel like reheated leftovers. That's the version of the next era I'm rooting for, one that builds forward without pretending the spine that carried Star Wars for 5 decades didn't matter.
So falls the last Skywalker.
So do you think Lucasfilm should bring back Ben Solo post-Episode 9? As always, drop your thoughts, theories and wildest speculations down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our other video covering how Ben Solo would most likely return should it happen. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and may the Force be with you.